right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Ag Warriors. Haven't recorded in a little bit. Have had a little bit of a hiatus from recording just because we had so many that we had done. But I'm really excited. I don't know if we call an emerging ag star or what we Dallas. I'm not quite sure the right term for you, but Dallas Leduc from Glentworth, Saskatchewan.
I don't know what I am either. I was just a farmer who liked making the odd video. And maybe as a kid I wanted to grow up, maybe be a TV cameraman. It was kind of one of the things that passed through my brain when I was a kid. And then as, phones got better, and everything I've always done is just with my phone. So as phones got better, then I'd make the odd combining video. And before I know it, I was just put them on Facebook, and then this TikTok thing showed up. I'd throw them on there. And next thing I looked down, I'm like, I have like 22,000 TikTok followers. Okay. I didn't even know what that really meant. It's like, and then all of a sudden, it just kept growing a little bit more. I was just making videos, and then I found when I made videos where I talked in a video and I, explained a piece of farm machinery or history or something, then I got more followers and more views. And next thing you know, I'm walking into Costco and people are coming up and recognizing me. It's like, I don't know what I've made here, but somehow I've managed to make myself noticeable.
Oh, it's TikTok. The Chinese made you famous.
Chinese made me famous, I guess. And then I think with not being, I'm 50 now. I just turned 50 here last month. So my opinion, I find, is different now as a 50-year-old man than an opinion of a stupid in the head 20-year-old man. It's more valid, more experience behind my opinion. After years and years and years of running the same piece of machinery, I know the in and outs of that machinery. My opinion on that matters more, or is more valid.
Well, I think that happens as we get older. And I've watched a bunch of your videos, and you're certainly knowledgeable about your equipment. I also, one of the cool things that I noticed, and I want to talk about this, but you're really passionate about harvest and about combines, and that's one of the things that I'm passionate about. So, but we don't want to go there right away. I want to, born and raised in Glentworth, Saskatchewan.
I born in Pontiac, Saskatchewan. My dad was a wheat pool agent at the little town of Hazelmore till I was 7, but Dad always did come back to my grandfather's farm and farm. So in 1983, when I was 7, Dad retired from the wheat pool, or quit, I guess, and went full-time farming. So we moved to the farm here, right to this house I'm living in right now, when I was 7 years old. And then Dad went full-time farming.
So maybe for our listeners, all 7 of them that don't know where Glentworth, Saskatchewan is, give us a little geography lesson about Saskatchewan. Where are you in relation to everything else?
I am very south central. I'm 34 miles from the Montana border. If you drew a line at an angle from southeast of Swift Current or southwest of Moose Jaw, coming down at a 45, you're going to nail Glentworth. And that's where we're at.
So you're in an area that farming has not been easy the last couple of years.
Since 2021, this has been one immense struggle at best.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of friends in that swath as well as customers. And let me ask you this, just because I'm curious, seems like you're getting what you've been missing in rain, but you're getting it all at once.
Well, I kept track here at the yard. Our farm is fairly big and spread out. We are 45 miles from one side to the other and a whole circle inside there. So the east side of the farm, closer to Assiniboia, has received, I think I talked to a guy there today, in June they had over 6 inches of rain over there. But at our own yard here at Glentworth is 2.2. So we've just, at the main yard here, we've just had adequate moisture. But you go to the eastern side of our farm, we're almost excessive. So I'm cheering for a rain at home, but maybe not at Limerick.
Yeah. I have a really good friend out in Assiniboia, and he had said we don't need any more moisture this year. We're good, or at least not for a while.
Yeah.
But 2.2, that's got to be, is that more than you had all of any year for the last 5 years?
Well, up and down. Like last year, we went from what a friend of mine figured out between June of 24 and June of 25 for that whole 12 months period. We only had 2 inches of total moisture, including snow. Yeah. So when it started to rain last June, it was already too late for almost all the crop. We had crop already written off at that time. It was going to be running 3 or less. So, but then any of the late seeded crop, we had crop last year running the 40s because it was just seeded later. It wasn't completely cooked when it started to rain. So that was really good for my crop insurance average. Some 3, some 44. So it just brought me right to where they want to not pay me.
Of course. Well, one of the things that I appreciate about your videos and maybe your outlook is, especially now where I know exactly where you're located, farming's hard at the best of times. Farming in your neck of the woods has been really hard for the last, honestly, since 2021, 2020.
Yep.
But you can't tell that from your videos.
Well, I try to show not always the poor, pitiful me, but I try to show how realistic it is in my area, how dry it is or how wet or how much snow. You know, I'm not trying to go pitiful me, but I'm not trying to brag either. Like this is more, I just want to be more realistic. Just this is a straight and narrow path. That's what we're on. You know, and it's kind of ironic there. My great grandfather come here in 1904. I'm going into history, I guess. 1904 from France. And he got the farm at Assiniboia, then he got the McCord, 2 in Manitoba, and then he was looking for one at Peace River before he passed away in the early 50s. But out of all them farms, we're the only one that's still actually operational.
Wow. So your grandfather, so you're French?
Yeah,
I guess Leduc.
Leduc, yes. My mom and dad both can speak a little bit of French still. Us children never did. We grew up in an English-speaking household, so I can barely suffer with English. I would really, really torture another language.
So your grandfather came in 1904. Great-grandfather. And started the farm. And then your grandfather farmed?
Yeah. My great-grandfather started in 1904, come back in 05, homesteaded south of Assiniboia. I have some cousins that still live on that farm over there. They've rented it out now. And then him and his brother homesteaded together. So then he wanted to expand, so he sold to his brother in 1928 and bought the farm north of McCord that we still own now.
Wow.
And then so 1928 he got that. My grandfather was born in 22, so obviously Grandpa took that over in probably the late 30s, early 40s. And my grandfather operated that farm till 2008, till when Dad and I completely rented all the land off him at that time.
And now, is your dad still involved in the farm?
Dad's still the boss.
Dad's still the boss.
We're transitioning over. My wife and myself are slowly buying Mom and Dad out. We're transitioning to that thing. My dad is a very active, very healthy, very sharp 77-year-old man.
Okay. And it seems to be, it doesn't matter where you are, whether it's Brazil, whether it's North America, Canada, the United States, that transition is just difficult.
Oh, it's to say it's been a struggle would be an underestimate of how hard it's been to, family dynamics on farming is hard. I mean, my dad started this yard here because Dad and Grandpa didn't farm together. They owned a rock picker together. Besides that, Dad started his own farm because Grandpa grew up in the 30s, the Depression, the war, and there was no money. And so Grandpa just stayed with his little farm. So when my dad come back in 83 and went full-time farming, Dad started this farm himself. Like, I'm a 4th-generation farmer on a 2nd-generation farm. And so then as Grandpa got older, and then he, started to slow down in his 60s or whatever, Dad rented a quarter and then a half, and then slowly at the end there we rented all of Grandpa's farm, but we didn't grow off of Grandpa's farm, and we just took it over, sort of thing. And then when Grandpa passed away, Dad inherited some. Most farms get split up. My uncle inherited some. I continued the rent from my uncle till about 5-6 years ago, and then we bought out my uncle.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought was cool, is that you rented land that had been in the family for a long time, and we're finally able to buy it. What was that like?
Well, good feeling. It just makes me laugh. We're going to have in 2028 will be the 100th anniversary of having that farm, and we're still going to owe a whack ton of money on it because we had to rebuy it for my uncle, which is, that is what it is. So half of it will be in the family for 100 and some years, and the other half will still be in the family for hundreds of years. It's just going to owe a few $100,000 on it that time.
And how many harvests in that time?
All of them.
100. So 2028 will be 100 harvests.
Well, maybe. I don't know about how the 30s were. I know hear lots of funny stories about my great grandfather in the 30s. They didn't grow hardly anything in the 30s. I don't know if they were harvesting much, or I know one of my videos that blew up, the first video I ever had on TikTok that blew up, that has like 3.5 million views. We farm on both sides of the Wood River, and there's a rock crossing there. It's a ford crossing, or rock. I've always called it a crossing. And we were crossing that with one of our tractors and air drills. And I said a little blurb in there that they built the crossing in 1933, I think, after my great-grandfather accidentally burnt down the bridge. There was a bridge about 400 yards away. There was a large bridge. But I guess the river was so full of thistles, and he was so tired of forking thistles so the horses could drink, he thought he'd just grab his Zippo and light a little fire and burn up some of these thistles. Well, I guess the fire went both ways up and down the river and burned up the bridge. And so the RM probably didn't have any money at that time. So instead of rebuilding this, it was a very high bridge, and that's why instead of rebuilding the bridge, it was probably way more economical just to start hauling in rocks and fill the river in that spot where the banks are low with rocks, and then just cross on the rock crossing. So burned up the bridge, and that rock crossing is in remarkable shape. I mean, we've added rocks to it over the years, but we crossed that with everything on the farm: semis, air drills, tractors, combines, and the neighbors use it. I mean, it's a public road, so the neighbors use it. We cross that crossing all the time.
Well, that is one of the videos that I thought was pretty fantastic. Crossing, I think it was a 9280. Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. That was one of the things I wanted to ask you about, is how that had come across. So it kind of came across because he burned down the thistles.
Burned down the thistles. Another funny story. I wish I would have went with my great grandfather. I guess he was a lot like my dad. He was very entrepreneur man. He always expanding and working hard. He was the Wood Mountain RCMP barracks, historic barracks, historic site of Wood Mountain. He was hauling oats in the 30s to the barracks, and then he'd sell them to the horses there, to the Mounties, and then going back home, reload. It was a multiple-day trip to haul a wagon load of oats in the 30s. Well, I guess he started a little grass fire, warming up some supper on the way home. So when he showed up with the next, and I don't know how much land burnt, but I guess quite a bit. So when he showed up the next week with a load of oats for the Mounties for the horses, they asked about this fire, and I guess he said, yeah, I did light a fire. And they said, well, you didn't report it. So they brought in a load of oats, and then they arrested him. So he had to sit there, and I don't know how they got word back to the family. They had to come up with like $100 to get him out of jail. But I think they let him out early because they were running out of oats, and they knew he had to make another trip to the farm and get a load of oats and go back. So I guess my great-grandfather must have been a bit of a firebug.
Yeah, I guess if he burned down the river thistles and then burned down some land. That's funny. So 7 years old, moving back to Glentworth. Had you been around the farm at that point, or?
Oh yeah, Dad started this yard here in '83. There was one dead tree and a fallen over barn when Dad started this farm. So when Dad did farm a little bit before that, he farmed out of Grandpa's yard. So we spent every weekend as a kid and during the summers for weeks on end at Grandpa's old farm. So, I was always a farm kid. We were out here all the time. I mean, where Dad worked and where Grandpa farmed is only 30 minutes apart. So we were out here all the time.
Okay.
Or out there, I guess I should say.
And did you know right from your earliest memory that you wanted to be a farmer? Other than the cameraman?
I never knew what I wanted to do when I grew up. I enjoyed riding with Grandpa on the tractor there, and that was, but to say I wanted to be a farmer at 7 years old, I mean, we grew up on a very poor part of the province. This is not the world's greatest dirt where we farm. You know, now as I got older, now I can see how much more profitable farming would be if we lived 60 miles east, back where the original farm is. I didn't know what I wanted to be till I was in my 20s and I was home full-time farming because Dad needed the help, and I love running machinery. That is part of my passion, is just running machinery. Everything else is sideline, but if I give me a combine or a tractor or a sprayer, I am happier than a pig and you know what.
Well, that's. I mean, I think that's pretty typical for a lot of kids that grew up on the farm, weren't really sure, and then came back and kind of fell all in love with it again. What did you like? Did you play sports growing up? Were you active that way, or
a little bit active in sports? But that talent thing, as in none of it, kind of really affected me doing anything with playing hockey. I mean, I played hockey because I enjoyed playing hockey. I had zero talent. I wasn't a good straighter. I'm not a good shot. I just enjoyed being out there with the boys and having fun. You know,
probably a big body though.
Yeah, well, I wasn't big until I got into my 30s. I was tall. I was 6 feet tall at 14, and I am still 6 feet tall. I've never, or 5'11" and 3/4. I've never actually measured 6. I remember 14 years old, I was 6 feet tall, or 5'11" and 3/4. So I was big, awkward, and clumsy, and now I'm still big, awkward, and clumsy.
That's a pretty funny description. I think there's a lot of, you see a lot of kids that, or we watch a lot of people that are very talented in sports. And for the percentage of people that actually are super talented, there's a whole bunch more that are, they're good at other things.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a kick of that too. You think, oh, the parents almost think that junior over there skating, that's going to be their money train, their meal ticket in the future. He's going some places. No, he's not. Hopefully he's going to have a good time. But do you think that that's going to be your retirement fund? I think a lot of parents, when their kids turn in their 20s and they haven't gone anyplace, have realized, oh, well, we almost ruined the fun of this poor child by pushing him so hard. Because it's a miracle to make it to any high level of sports.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I played a lot of sports. I coached my kids. And certainly you look at it down the road and you're like, man, we should have gone camping. We should have done some of the other things because we dedicated a lot of time to sports. But that being said, I did coach a kid that's now playing in the major leagues. And I mean, you knew this kid was special, but he's from Manitoba. Like, what are the odds that someday you're going to be the starting center fielder for the Chicago White Sox? Probably slim to none. But yeah. For the 99% of us that never made it anywhere, there is always the 1%.
Oh, yeah. And I played hockey with one guy, actually just a neighbor who lives a few miles south of us here. He would have made NHL games, but I think he had some knee injuries, and then he played some preseason, and he spent basically his entire career just the farm team, one tier down.
AHL.
Yeah, just couldn't quite make it back up there, and I kind of wish he would have. Would have been fun to watch that because I played hockey with him when he was growing up. He was 1 year older, so every second year you'd play with him when he was still around, and then he moved on when we were in teens. But that's as close as I got was playing with him.
No, that's cool. So went to high school. What's a lot of people don't really understand that the high schools in small town, well, we'll just call it small town North America, are not like your town probably didn't have a high school.
Well, actually, my town is a phenom of small little towns. We have a full kindergarten to grade 12 school right in town.
And so then everybody came to your town to go to school.
Yeah, come to our town to go to school. So our drawing area would be, 35 miles to the border, 15 miles in all directions of town would probably come to town, would kind of be the rough drawing area. So my graduating class in 1995 was, I think we were 20 or 21 kids graduating that class. And now they've been as low as like 3. So, I mean, but it goes up and down. It's a cycle. And that's what somebody says. The town, they're still working on it now. They just built a brand new daycare. And they're like, well, who's going to fill it? Like I said, look at me. Well, you're done having children. Well, you're right. But my daughter's going to be a teenager here right away. In 8, 9, 10 years, she could easily be putting my grandchildren in that daycare. So I'm a big supporter of that, because my own children won't go there, but maybe my grandchildren will.
Right. And I think that that's one of the things that makes these small towns continue to exist, because if you stop planning for the future, then you're just planning for dying.
Well, that's it. Everybody thought when the Saskatchewan wheat mill elevator closed and they took the railroad track up, like the last person when they got on the railroad and left should turn off the lights. But ever since the railroad left, and then actually we are one of the owners of the old elevator, the town hasn't really died. The local garage has stayed very busy because now there's way more semis on the road to haul grain to our nearest Assiniboia or Moose Jaw or Swift Current to haul grain out of here. More cattle liners. The grocery store has stayed busy. The hotel is on and off the different ownership, but it's still, operational. We got a little credit union right in town. Like my little town of a population of 60 has pretty amazing stuff in it, I find. That's why I'm so proud of what my town has. And with me being an RM counselor, I did 16 years as a counselor. And part of being on council was we looked after town. So I always had a lot of pride in my little town because I was a counselor and because I grew up in that town. I went to school in that town, got my first kiss in that town, so I have a lot of connections to Glentworth.
Oh, that's really cool. And I think that is something that we don't shine enough of a light on, these small towns and the people that do a good job of keeping them going, because it takes a lot of dedication. A town of 60, that's hard to keep going.
It is. Well, the town is 60 and the RM, I think the census a couple of years ago was over 300 in the RM, the rural municipality. So, it booming. But 100% ag based though. That is also, there's no other industry besides farming and ranching in this RM. There's no pig barn, there's no nothing. It is just ag based.
It's so cool. And there's so many of those towns across Western Canada. One of the things that popped in my head is, and you talked about a local garage, but where's your closest dealer? Assiniboia?
Assiniboia has got everything you need in Assiniboia. It has GM dealer, New Holland dealer, Case dealer, John Deere dealer, several good tire shops, local bumper to bumpers up there. Assiniboia.
But just to put that into perspective, that's an hour from you?
Yeah, 88 kilometers.
So
from my door to that door, 88.
Something breaks down on the farm, it's an hour each way just to get the part, plus whatever else happens.
Well, I've already been there once this morning.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I was spraying yesterday, and the 1.5-inch hose on the sprayer going to the middle section of the boom of our case sprayer had a little pinhole leak. In the morning, it was a pinhole. By afternoon, it was way more than a pinhole. I taped it up and sealed it as best I could, but it was leaking pretty good. But yesterday was a good spray day, so I got up at 6. I was there a little after 7 when the doors open. I got the hose, and as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to go put it on and go back to spraying.
Well, that's the life in a day of a farmer. It never ends. So, go ahead.
Well, I said that's with the social media side. That's why I like to do sometimes an all-day video, because I really don't know where my day is going to go. You get up in the morning, you leave the house with a cup of coffee, and I got to fix the sprayer. And at the end of the day, I could be at North Battleford. And you just don't know how these things work.
But that is kind of one of the cool things about farming. And I think that it does take an entrepreneurial mindset to be a farmer, because you're not going for a 7 to 3 job every day doing the same damn thing over and over. It'd probably kill you.
Well, that's when I was off the farm for a little bit there. I actually welded for Brandt and for Rem, and both were good paying jobs. And I went to school for welding, and I actually really enjoy welding, and I'm glad I have that skill. But I hate that career, because when you went and welded all day long on production line welding, when I was at Rem, it's an awful job. Here, make 1,200 widgets. All day, put this piece, insert the washer, put the tab, weld, tack, place, rotate, spin, repeat 1,200 times. Oh boy, that got boring fast. It was, great skill to have. I'm glad I'm very good with, MIG welding and stick welding, but boy, what an awful job.
Man, I couldn't agree more. I worked in a cabinet factory here in Winkler for a period of time, and it was the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I mean, thank God we have people they can do that because we need that, but I wasn't for
Yep.
me.
No, it wasn't for me either. No, when I had a chance, I was working in Swift Current there, and I had a chance to leave that and make way more money on a service rig, but way harder work from indoor welding job in the wintertime. I left a nice indoor welding job to go work a outdoor service rig job because it was more money and more active, and in all honestly, more enjoyable.
Yeah, way more variety. Never
Yeah.
knew it, kind of like farming. You never knew what you were showing up to.
Oh yeah, because then service rigs, one day you're pulling pipe or pulling rods or doing a production or moving the rig. Like it's more like farming. It was just you're always at the end goal, but you never know what steps you're going to take to get to that goal. When I was welding and making 1,200 widgets a day, I knew what I was doing was having an awful day.
Yeah, no doubt. So, grew up, went to high school. Is your wife from Glentworth?
No, my wife is from northwest of Swift Current, a little town called Lancer.
Okay. And how did you guys meet?
Internet.
Okay. How long? Internet dating.
Yeah, it was pretty in its infancy back then. We met on the internet. We went on one date. It didn't. We were actually had a cold. She had a cold. It didn't go very well. And then we didn't talk for 3 or 4 months. But meanwhile, while we were talking, we have lots of mutual friends. And then months later, her sister-in-law and a buddy of mine tried setting us up again. And my wife's like, I already met him. We went on a date. It didn't work. We're not compatible, kind of sort of thing. So we had mutual acquaintances and family. And so she called me up or texted me up there. Texting was in infancy back then too. And said, maybe we should meet again. So we did. And we've been together now 18 years.
Holy crap. I didn't even know there was internet dating 18 years ago. What platform was that?
Oh, Lava Life. I should check my profile. Maybe I'm still on it. I'm not quite too sure.
Lava Life. I mean, you hear a lot about dating profiles, but that is not one that you hear about. Lava Life. Well, I mean, that's a pretty cool story too.
Well, I mean, and I learned at that time in my life, I knew what I didn't want in a relationship. I mean, I dated so much before. There were so many things I didn't want. It didn't take very hard to just put an X in that box, because I've already dated the bar stars and I've done this and I've done that. And I wanted somebody I can be compatible with, that I can hop in a pickup truck or go camping or holidaying with and not get sick and tired of. Because that was the problem I had in a lot of other relationships is, you get along okay, but after the end of the day, you're like, I'm so tired of this person.
Yeah.
And that's why I made sure with my wife is somebody I didn't get tired of. And then she's a major part of the operation. I mean, this is her office I'm sitting in right now. She runs the farm. She runs the books. She runs the budget. She's as big as this part in this office as I am in the shop fixing something.
Oh, that's really cool. And definitely, I mean, I think that people underestimate how big of a role that a lot of women play in farms. You think of farmers, and it's changing, of course, but there's a lot of really powerful women out there that make a huge impact in agriculture that I don't think we shine enough of a light on.
Oh, exactly. I mean, some women are phenomenal at, running machinery, doing chores, looking after that side. Some don't want to have nothing to do with the farm. But my wife, she was an RM administrator, so books are her forte. So that's what she does. She runs the book, she runs the inventory, she runs the budget. She makes sure there's money in the account when the payments are being made. I mean, and not to mention, she is a mother to my daughter there. And so that's her first priority, is making sure my daughter's looked after. And then the farm and me come second and third or fifth or something.
And so once you guys started dating, there was no doubt she was coming back to the farm, and that was going to be a big part of her life, and I guess your guys' life together. It was never a conversation like, hey, maybe I should leave the farm?
No, no, that was part of right off the check in the box when I started dating. Like, I'm not leaving this farm. Like, I'm going to be always be going to the farm. At that time, I lived in town, but I'm always going to be going to the farm. This is, I'm not moving to the city. I'm not going back to the oil patch. I'm at the farm 100% full time. You are basically going to be a farmer's wife if you're going to stay dating me. But she come from a farm, so she knew exactly what she was going towards. I remember she was riding with me in the combine there, and we started dating. I was doing chickpeas, and not a very good crop. Ran like 8. And she thought to herself, how do these guys make a living? But then a couple years later, the chickpeas went like 30. So it just kind of how that works. But yeah, that was part of the thing when we were dating. So that's a little advice to some of your listeners out there. Make sure you're happy with who you choose. Make sure you're on the same goal, the same idea, the same, because you don't want to have that, I never wanted to be on this stupid farm 10 years from the road. Now your farm's not going to work out.
Yeah.
You want to make sure somebody that you want to be 100% compatible with, same goals, look after the yard, look after the farm, help me move. And she knew that right from the word go. And I made sure I found somebody that was happy to help me with our farm grow.
No, that's great advice. And I think that that's definitely something. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a farmer or whatever you are. That's just great advice for young people.
Oh, yeah, because the odd time I've ran into an ex-girlfriend or so over the years thinking to myself, thank God this didn't work out.
Well, that's cool. So I think it was in your 20s, if I'm right, is when you really started getting involved with combines. And I believe you did custom harvesting. Is that right?
Yep. When I was 20 years old, so I wasn't bar age. That's pretty smart, eh? Go all the way to Texas and back, not bar age. But so I hooked up with a crew out of Moose Jaw, and we went all the way to Seymour, Texas, up into Colorado, South Dakota, and then a whole bunch up around Duff and Melford up there.
Yeah, and that had to be an experience. I mean, I'm sure you didn't sneak into any bars at all in that time, not once?
Not once, no. And, the ironic thing is I always looked a little older than I was, and we had one guy on our crew that was 22 years old and was so baby-faced, just looked like he was 12. So we'd go to the bars, and we'd kind of walk in together, and they'd always ID him, and you guys keep going, but we're IDing this kid. And so that I ID the one guy who was legal, and the rest of us who maybe weren't legal bar age would just kind of wander on in. So, yeah, thank you.
That's perfect. You had your designated decoy.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. That is correct. The designated decoy.
And you must have some fun memories from that time because you're talking about some great country in the United States with some pretty cool little bars.
Cool bars. El Reno, Oklahoma. Little bar downtown called Todd's Tavern. Might have spent an evening or two in there. When it rains in the States, as a lot of your listeners probably know that, it rains and rains and rains and rains and rains, and you're shut down for at least a day or two. So you can only do so much maintenance, and then you just get bored and end up in a bar. So spent a lot of time in Todd's Tavern. That was a fun little one.
Well, that's great. I could just see it in your face as you're reminiscing about it.
And that's what I've told many guys over the years. Like, you leave the farm, go to the States, make a run. Like, you're looked after. You're going to get a paycheck. Your truck will be fine. You're going to get enough money to make your truck payments. But the experiences you're going to have from meeting guys that have never left their home county. Met some guys there that never left their home county. That's just how they grew up. That's where they were. It's such an eye-opening experience to see such different side of agriculture. But now I guess with the social media side, I see so many agriculture farms throughout North America daily. But back then there was no internet in the 90s, So you went down there, like, it was just eye-opening to see the crops they grew and how they grew. And then, this one field we combined, it had electric fence on one side, and one side was all cows, the other side was winter wheat. They just grazed half of it for the winter pasture, and then they combined the other half. And as soon as they were done combining, they took out the electric fence, and the cows went over to the stubble. This eye-opening experiences that I got to see and run machinery and basically the bosses are big babysitters. They're looking after you. You're fed. You got a paycheck and you're fed and you got a motel room or a camper and you're good to go. So I recommend if you could ever find a crew doing a run, experiences that you'll never look back at and regret.
And those crews are like families. I mean, we do custom harvest convention in the United States every year, and their trade show, and spend time with we'll call it 70% of the custom harvesters in the United States. And boy, they are tight knit crews and tight knit families, and some of their stories are pretty spectacular.
Oh yeah, and some of them you can't repeat on this podcast. I know.
No, we won't. Yeah, we won't. We got to protect the anonymity of some of those. So, what combine were you running? And because I think you're Case now, right?
We're New Holland now, but that was the 9600 days.
Okay.
We had 8 9600s at that time, and
Wow.
one old white 9700 Harvest Boss. We ran up here in Canada. The boss ran the Harvest Boss, and then he burned it to the ground.
So how many different combines have you operated? Like brands and models?
9600, 7720, 9610, Cat 460, Massey Ferguson 9790, Case 7120, New Holland CR 9070, and then a whole whack load of CR 9090s.
Okay.
And I'm sure I'm missing one in the middle there too, someplace.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. So, obviously the 9090s your favorite?
Yeah, it's a nice combine for its day, but our combines are getting to be a little long in the tooth. Our combines are all 2013s and 14s. So New Holland has shortened the feeder house up in the newer models, and you improved your sight lines and that stuff. The thrashing wise, I think the New Holland is still probably the best. But I know on like the 8.9s and 9.9s, the shorter feeder houses would be a much better machine than what we have. But, one best thing about our combines is their payment plan.
Right. You don't owe a dang thing on them.
No, they're ours. We owe on the headers, but we don't owe on the combines.
And that's a big thing right now in ag, and as the economics of it, the guys that have big payments, it's tough.
Oh, as we've seen with some of the big corporate farms that aren't working, that didn't make it work, well, they were overextended. That long, brand new line of machinery every year, they were upside down on that equity so fast, where us running our old junk and learning how to pull wrenches on it and rebuilding it from basically one end to the other over. Because, I mean, we can rebuild that combine for probably 25, 30 grand a year to keep it functional for the year. Well, that's a quarter of a payment on a new one?
At least. Yeah, maybe. So, and you mentioned it's one of the questions I want to ask, and I feel like there's been a lot of hate and a lot of piling on the manettes, right? I mean, it feels like you go online and there's a lot of people that are piling on and like, see, told you, and all these things, which I think is kind of a sad deal, because I think that what's happening there is going to significantly impact agriculture in Western Canada.
Well, yeah. You had a lot of guys first of all, they drive by the manette operations. There's one not far from Swift Current that we drove by, and we would all drive by wondering, well, how is he doing this? How is it even possible? And obviously, I think they were sitting in the office at the same time going, this isn't working. We were negative, but let's borrow more money. And then they would move into an area, and I know why so many guys are pissed off. They'd move into an area, and they would jack the rent up and swipe land out from other guys, or have to make, raise the rent up $20-30 an acre if you want to stay renting from your landlord. Well, now all of a sudden, because Manette's in the area and he's raised the price of rent, he's costing you $30 more an acre, because if you don't rent it, Manette's going to get it. So you can see why he was so hated in agriculture, because any of the locals couldn't stand him, because he was doing nothing for the community besides raising the price of rent, costing them more money out of their pockets. So you can see why guys are almost dancing on his grave, so happy that operation is failing, because it cost a lot of other farmers a lot of money to try to compete in a tight margin.
But one of the things on the flip side of that is him failing is going to cause banks to be a little more careful about where they're lending money. It's also going to mean that those landlords, whether they have to lower the price of rent or go back. I mean, I see this, I definitely see the side where the big corporate farms make it tough for the little guys, but I also see the big corporate farms going down, making it even tougher for the little guys in some ways.
Yeah. But it has been tough for watch that go on because, I mean, it was such an amazing operation to start off with the few thousand acres that go to, what do they have for sale? 280,000 acres up for sale right now. And
it's gonna drop the price of land values because people are going to be able to get that for a song and a dance, and then all the other land values,
yeah. But I mean, back to the initial point there that my thought come back to me. I don't blame any of them landlords asking for more money. Manette was offering more money. You have to go to your existing landlord to get more money because you've put your blood, sweat, and tears and equity into that land forever. And if you can get more money for your item, you want more money. It's available. So, I mean, the landlords might have to take a bit of a cut right now in these tough times. I mean, we are at early 2000s prices and 2026 input costs. Like, at the end of my thing, I have a gigantic negative symbol on my notepad here because it doesn't work.
Doesn't pencil, and it doesn't pencil. I mean, really, for a lot of the crops that are being grown, it just doesn't pencil. And I think that if we were seeing prices even from 2 years ago with the increased input costs, we might not even be talking about Manettes because
he might have made it work.
He might have been able to make it work, but I talk to farmers. I mean, with what we do, I talk to farmers all the time, and it's crazy how hard it is to farm right now. How do you stay positive like you are with how hard it is?
Crying gives me a headache. So it's just so much easier to not cry about it. Hope deep down, maybe with some of the agri stability and some of the insurances we've bought, that we can get through this cycle and to know that we're in a cycle. I mean, it goes up. I mean, after 2021, when we had no crop to sell, I mean, durum was worth $22 a bushel. Canola was high 20s.
Yep.
So we went way too high on the charts. And now we're going to go way too low on the charts, and hopefully we can bounce back to the middle. I'm really hoping that we can survive this downturn. Our buying around our operation is basically restricted to maintenance. The idea of upgrading anything is going to be, we're going to upgrade it to new bearings, and then we're going to keep running it until we can get through this cycle. So that's where I'm trying to stay positive, is hoping that this is just a cycle. It isn't a permanent downturn. It isn't a permanent recession or depression, that we can bounce back up to, $600 a ton fertilizer. And then maybe you're selling wheat and durum with a number that starts with a 1 in the front. $10, $12 wheat is where we need to be, Canadian, for these products. We need canola to be 16, 17, 18, if not $20 a bushel, especially with these yields. I mean, last couple of yields have been poor. The guys up north, they already know their yields are taking a hit. What isn't drowned out isn't doing very well. They're going to have some great high spots on the hills, and they're going to have some pretty sick looking crops. So they're cheering for a good crop too, and a good price, because it's just been so tough up there. I mean, we barely have enough moisture, and I feel sorry for all my friends up there that have
way too much.
And it's washing out roads. The RMs are cutting out roads that drain to keep from losing yards and towns. It is. I've had some videos sent to me. It's a disaster, especially if you watch social media. It's a disaster up there.
Well, and we drove to Gladstone, Manitoba, to do a combine clinic this week, and there was 40 clicks from Carmen to the number one. That, I mean, it's a lake, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for guys. And, I mean, farming, it just never seems to be easy.
No. A friend of mine was up there suffering to get the seeding done. I think he finally got it done. And he was in that Dauphin area, and then the rain come down.
7 inches on Monday night.
Yeah, and then he sent me a video there, and I was like, why is there power poles in the middle of that lake? And then I knew where he was going with this. I'm like, that's just awful. He said, it's just disgusting. He said, we worked so hard to get that seeded, and now it's under 3 feet of water.
It's I was one of the guys that was at the clinic. We were talking, great guy, and they had about 3 inches, but he was sitting in with his wife, and it was pouring rain, and she looks outside and their truck was on fire. In the pouring rain, their truck got hit by lightning. And so he had to go out there. He said, luckily I had the water hauler close. He's out there pouring rain, trying to put out a fire on his. He said the trailer was good, but they lost the truck. But, I mean, it's just hard right now.
Oh, yeah. And that's, that's why I find, back to that, you need to build a berm around it, fill it full of water, and drown that truck is how you put it. That's how you put out an electric car fire. I got that email with, because I'm on the volunteer fire department. Actually, as of now, I'm still the fire chief here. So to put out an electric car fire, you build a berm of dirt around it and then drown the car. That's how you put them out. You have to basically submerge it.
Well, he said he did get it out, but it was a complete write-off.
Yeah, oh yeah. They always are with a fire, yeah.
Yeah. So we haven't really talked, we talked briefly at the beginning about the social media and, just you started putting videos out. One of the videos that I thought was hilarious was you were talking about the life of bearings on your twister in the wind in Saskatchewan. Where do these ideas come from for these videos?
Well, we've all seen it, that the swather parked in the corner of the yard that hasn't been used in 30 years. The wind picks up and the reel starts turning. That's pretty common. It was one of them windy spring days, and I was having dinner in the house and look outside, and the rolling baskets on that Mandanko twister, those aren't light. Like, that's heavy.
Yeah.
And the wind was catching it just right, and how they're built with a kind of a Twizzler spiral effect. It was just spinning away. And so I was like, I should make a video of asking, how often do I grease this? So you see something, and then for me, I have to go act on it right away, because I'll just lose that train of thought and a squirrel and I'll be off. So I ran out there, and that rolling basket is just spinning. So I was asking, how often do I grease these? Like when I'm using it or when I'm not using it? Because it's turning right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of why your videos are great. But I talk to a lot of different people, and Zoe plans things out a little bit more, and some of what we'll call our social media influencers are very planned out videos, but yours don't seem to be planned out. It's just whatever hits you.
Yeah. The ones I plan out never do good, because I'm a terrible actor. See, I can't really skit the way some of them great ones guys can skit a video, and mine are not that good. But mine, I guess, done in my own way. I guess everybody comes up with their own niche. I don't even know what my niche is, but they just kind of work out. And I like to switch them up. One day I want to be serious, talking about how my day. The next day I might see, like I said, there's the Mandanko twister, the rolling basket turning in the wind. Well, I'll make that video. So I might go 3-4 days without making a video, and then I'll make 6 in one day. Just short little clips, or I make an all-day video. And the social media side is a lot of fun. And maybe it takes away from some of the stress of farming, but at the same time I'm talking about farming.
Well, and that was going to be one of my questions for you is this a channel for you to relieve some of the stress, because you have no choice but to laugh at it, because a lot of your videos are, just things that are happening that most people, it's not really funny, but it's funny because it's not funny, and it's just funny. Real life.
And then a lot of them, sometimes we've had these CR 9090 combines since a couple of them were almost new when we got them. So as we went from a 500-hour combine to a 2,500-hour combine to a 4,000-hour combine, I've learned along the way of things that look fine, but after so many hours, this bearing holder will get weak and break and then cause a catastrophic failure. So if I can go along the way and say, hey, if you're running one of these combines and you're getting up to these hours, check this, change these holders, change the bearings, because this is a pretty easy fix now. But when that fan falls apart and that combine self-destructs, now you're not looking at a 2-hour job, you're looking at a 2-day job and tens of thousands. So I often think, if I can make a video and show somebody something I learned in my experiences that can save a farmer a bunch of downtime and a lot of money, that I think that I'm doing some good too. Like I'm just trying to help out my fellow farmer. I always say we're always in this together. We all have the same end goal. We're all trying to make a living at this. I'm not trying to steal my neighbor's dirt. If anything, I'm going to help him. Hopefully he has the best crop, because if I have a great crop, or he has a great crop, hopefully I have a good crop.
That's such that's why I love agriculture, because it's everybody's cheering and rooting for everybody. It is also what I would say sad about Manette's is everybody was cheering for their demise, because that's not agriculture. It's not been my experience. I mean, I didn't grow up in agriculture, so I've been blessed to be in it for the last 13 years, but that is the thing, is everybody's cheering for everybody usually.
Yes, usually. And maybe as farmers, we don't like the investors. I know personally, I'm not a fan of investment ownership. I think that's really a downfall for our small town. I think if this entire RM got sold to investment ownerships, the town's dead.
Yeah.
I battled that. I had a little debate here a little while ago with Robert Angelic over that I think investment ownership should be taxed differently. I really strongly think, because they're not part of the community. They're not putting kids in the daycare. They're not helping to build the daycare. They're not doing anything like that. They're not putting kids in school. They're 100% about pulling money out of the rural economy and putting it into their pockets. And that's the reason I think they should be taxed a little bit higher, because us on the volunteer fire department, maybe we could get better fire trucks and have, our newest fire truck was given to us and it's a 2000. All the other trucks are from the 80s. So I think maybe some of these investment ownerships, groups like that, should be taxed at a higher rate. And some of that money should go to your local fire department, so we can pay for better training. We can pay for better trucks. We can pay a little honorarium to the guys that drop what they're doing, the run to a fire, no matter whose land or where it's at. But we drop what we're doing. And that's where I think that investment ownership should be taxed differently. And maybe it'd be a discouragement for some of these people like Mr. Angelic, who is a very smart businessman, has made millions and billions of dollars, by buying and selling and renting out land. But he has done nothing for the rural economy. So I think they should be taxed a little bit higher, and maybe it'd be a discouragement for him to want to buy more farmland, saying, well, no, I'm taxed higher because I'm an investor. If I was an active farmer, I'd be taxed differently. If it was arm's length and I inherited this land from my father, it would be taxed, differently. But I'm an investor, and in my opinion, it should be taxed higher. That's something, when I was an RM counselor for all them years, we discussed many times. But I couldn't really discuss that on my social media when I was a counselor, because when I was a counselor, I represented the RM.
Right.
I'm no longer a counselor, so now I can let my opinions fly.
Watch out.
Well, because I've always disagreed with investment ownership. I still don't think the large communities have had a lot of investment ownership. The communities have suffered because of it. And
yeah,
so,
I definitely see your point, because if you do tax them a little bit differently, and that additional tax stays in the local communities, whether that's the local arenas, the fire departments, to keep those communities going, that certainly is something that I think would probably ease some of the tensions, because I don't think investment farming is going anywhere.
No,
at this point, it's not.
No, and for them to say, "Oh, my tenants will look after that." Yes and no.
What money right now?
Yeah, with what so your tenants are going to drop what they're doing, the run to things. No, I think it needs to be a tax thing with, if you're investment ownership, something like that. If you're a retired farmer, I don't think you should be taxed any different. You've given your life to that community, your time. And if you inherit that land to your children, they should also not be taxed any differently. I only think it's the investment ownership, the guys that buy it just to rent it out, that pull money out of the community. That's what I'm thinking. My own opinion. We've discussed it lots, and it's something I plan on discussing way more. But when I was a counselor, I couldn't bring this up because I was representing the council.
Yeah.
This is my opinion, not council's opinion. I'm no longer a counselor. Now it's still my opinion. And now I can get it out there, because the amazing power of social media is with the, 60-some thousand TikTok followers and 25,000 Facebook followers, plus the other social media channels. A lot of people now listen to me.
You definitely have a platform, and it's definitely growing quite a bit.
Yeah. And government officials, I know the Minister of Agriculture personally. He was the SARM director for my division for years. He was the president of SARM, and Mr. Dave Merritt. So I've known him for years. So I know for sure that my stuff goes across his desk.
Yeah.
So I might have a better chance now getting things onto his desk through social media than I ever had as a counselor.
Yeah. So And I think that just shows how powerful social media is. I know you got to get back to spraying, and I said I'd try to keep this to an hour. But
I budgeted an hour and a half. We're good.
Okay, good. Because I want to ask you, what's the future for you? What's the future for you, both in the farm, whether that's expansion or what that looks like, and also what's the future for your social media?
Well, the farm right now is survival mode, so there is no expansion. Maybe this year we'll turn a profit. When you go multiple years in a row at losses, and then we're not, in my mind, we're not subsidized the way the states are. We don't have their bridge payments and stuff. We do have other, we have agri-stability. We do have other crop insurance means, but we're not looked after the way their farmers are looked after. So right now in our situation, it's survival mode. So expansion is off the table. Almost think now, when working our tail off, we're behind because maybe we have expanded too much. We've pushed, once we got past that 10,000 acre mark and the 12 and the 13,000, I think now we've really pushed the amount that myself, my dad, and the hired men can really do with our machinery. We've got to the max. So expansion's off the table. Social media, I don't see myself changing any of that. I don't think I'm not going to do more on social media. I don't know if I can do much more on social media besides the videos I make and the podcast that I have. I don't think I'll push that anymore. I'll just let that grow naturally, because I love what I do when it comes to social media. I love when I do my own podcast, which I'm going to do a shameless plug here, the Bunny Huck Farmers.
Let's do a shameless plug for sure.
Yeah, because the Bunny Huck Farmers has been a lot of fun. I teamed up with an incredibly smart young guy there, Tyler Janin from Moosomin, and I could never have done it without Tyler. We've had so much fun talking to some great farmers and great influencers, and it's just like this. It's just so excited to talk farming. It's just awesome.
How long has that been going?
Over a year and a half.
Awesome. Favorite guest?
All of them. I'll say the last one. It's always the last guest. So Floyd Thiessens is the last one we've recorded. So right now, Floyd's my favorite.
That's fantastic. So, go ahead.
Floyd, maybe you've seen him on social media. He's the I guarantee you have. He's paraplegic. He's in the wheelchair. He's the one that has that big pick and arm boom that puts him right into the seat of the tractor cab.
Yep.
Him. He's got a huge social media presence, but he'd never done nothing like we had him on there the other day. And an amazing man with an amazing story, which will be out July 5th, in case anybody wants to listen.
July 5th. So that's Sunday. And I love plugging other podcasts and plugging social media. I've certainly enjoyed this conversation. I always end the Ag Warriors podcast with two questions. And the first, I don't know if there's a first or a second. The two questions are, and it's changed so much, but the one question is, because I called it Ag Warriors, if you were in a battle, and you've been battling in South Central Saskatchewan for 5 years, but if you're in a battle, what weapon would you take into battle with you? What's your go-to? And it doesn't have to be an actual weapon. I've had charisma, I've had love, I've had the Bible, I've had so many things, and I just kind of let it go wherever it goes.
I think you want to keep it real. If I'm going to go into something, I don't want to go into it optimistic. I don't want to go into it pessimistic. I want to go with real. This is kind of what I can expect for a yield. This is kind of what I'm hoping to grow the yield to, but I want to keep it real. I don't want to be wildly optimistic. I don't want to be wildly pessimistic. I want to keep it real.
So eyes wide open.
Yeah.
That's the first time I've had that.
And that, if I'm in the world's most famous 9280, I'd be pretty happy too.
And I thought if I were to guess what your weapon would be, based on some of what you said, it might have been your wife too. Seems like she's a pretty powerful weapon.
Oh yes, I keep her in my back pocket because I don't want to release her. That's for emergency use only.
When it gets really dire.
Yeah.
And the second question I always ask is, and I'll frame this one a little bit differently. But your daughter, I'm guessing she's 9 or 10. Is that about right?
12.
12. So what piece of advice would 20-year-old, or would you give 20-year-old Dallas that you also will give 20-year-old, and I don't know your daughter's name.
Hope.
Hope. Oh, what a great name. So what would you give 20-year-old Dallas that also applies to 20-year-old Hope about life?
Oh boy, that is a tough one. I lived such a wild life when I was young. Maybe not be so wild. Maybe be a little more grounded. I was in and out of trouble. I have the criminal record to prove it. I had a pretty wild growing up there. I was a shy kid, so I tend to express myself by a heavy right foot. So I got into trouble with the law, with speeding and stuff like that. So, and I don't think she battles the shyness the way I did, which is funny now because I was so shy and I could hardly talk to people before unless I knew them. But I would fly out of a parking lot at 1,000 miles an hour and do something completely stupid, asinine in a car. And now that I've grown out of that and I'm more calmer, not so wild, I can talk to anybody. Now I find I'm that slow guy in the fast lane doing 95 where I should just be, before I was 150 in the fast lane. So tell her not to be so wild, not to be wild like me. I don't think she's going to battle that. I think she's more like her mother. She's going to be on the straight and narrow path. But myself, I was pretty wild. I was very immature, I think, until I was in my later 20s. I think I was a very immature man.
So maybe slow down, be a little more grounded.
Yeah. I was just too. I mean, I love what I did in farming and running machinery, but I was so stupid. I would never want to go back to that age because look at myself at that time. I was so dumb. But now I find maybe because it's all this gray, and I'm still got a young heart. I still like to have a lot of fun, but I like to have fun a lot more safely.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I think that that's something that we all battle. I mean, I don't know many of us that I turned 50 later this year that look back to our early to mid 20s and think, God, I was an idiot back then. Like, what was I thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, just look back now and I shake my head thinking, the money I wasted and the stupid stuff I did. But same times that leads to some pretty cool stories.
And also, it builds you into who you are now.
And very much, like I say, it really gives you the character that I have now that turned me into, between the family issues, the farming issues, the relationship issues. I can look back at that reference of all them for years and always will, but never would I want to go back to that time I'd like to go back to that time and be young and good looking with this head on my shoulders, but I wouldn't want to go back with my old brain.
Yeah, no doubt. And I also, one of the things that's really funny is I bet you nobody that follows you would have thought you were a shy kid.
Oh yeah, very shy. Couldn't talk to a girl hardly to save my soul. No. I mean, girls in my school or classmates, yes, but outside of that, it took a long time to grow out of that.
Huh.
But then, with the social media side, now when you just grab your phone and you hold it up and you make your video and
now you're going to Costco and talking to everybody.
Which, I don't know if that's a sign that you're getting recognized when somebody wants to take your picture with you at Costco, but I've had that done.
Oh, man, that's cool.
But
that's
I was up.
Cool.
I was up at the Ag in Motion there one time there, and we had the Mandanko 88-foot roller we have. And social media was growing a little bit, but hadn't grown a lot. And I stopped by the Mandanko booth. They've been really good to me over the years. They built that roller with us. And Quick Dick was working in the booth. Quick Dick's a great representative with Mandanko and stuff. And going to be in your guys' booth a little bit, you said there. Yep. So visit with them. And a guy walked up and he said, Dallas, the manager said, Dallas, I got a question for you about the 7-plex roller and stuff. And, oh, yeah, because I ran it. So walked around there and the guy's like, I know you. I see your videos. And it's like, all of a sudden the manager's like, I can get Quick Dick and Dallas in the booth. So we've done some booths together. So that's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool. And Quick Dick, I mean, we in 2020 during COVID, when COVID shut everything down, we held something called it's funny, I'm drinking out of the coffee cup, the Thanks for Farming Tour. And Quick Dick, his first ever, it's funny, we laugh about it. His first ever stand-up routine was on the Thanks for Farming Tour in Lethbridge, Alberta, to about 17 Hutterites. And he's such an amazing man. Like, just, there's very few people in agriculture that have a heart as big as him. That's for sure.
And you talked about, obviously you know him and I know him too. Somebody so smart, so well read, so well watched the news, to do his skits, to come up with that is something that I'll never dream of ever doing anything like that, because I cannot. That is not my thing. With him up on stage, when he tucks his jeans into his boots, Quick Dick shows up. That, and to be able to do that the way at that high level is pretty awesome and very entertaining.
Absolutely. And Dallas, you don't need to be Quick Dick. You don't need to be anybody else. I think you've built your following pretty organically and just by being you. And I certainly will continue to tune in. And I hope that, I'm sure I'll see you at Ag Emotion either way, but I am going to reach out and see if we can't set something up with you and Rob in our booth. So
yeah, that would be, I can like to thank Rob for not having me on his podcast so I could start my own.
That's awesome.
Well, that's what it was. I thought I was all excited I was going to be on the Shark Farmers podcast. I was pretty excited, really excited. And all of a sudden, it just blanks. It's just crickets ever since. Well, I got excited to have a podcast and talk about podcasts. And then I was listening to his podcast, and he's got great guests on there. And it does a great job with it. But that's the reason I started the Bunny Hug Farmers, is we're not row crop soybeans and corn. We're air drills, we're swathers, we're stripper headers. You know, our agriculture in Saskatchewan is so diverse in Western Canada from one side to the other. I wanted to share how different we all are. And that's kind of what I said. Well, I can talk, barely, sometimes. But I want to share my story, and I want to share other social media guys' stories, and I want to interview a beekeeper someday, and all that fun stuff is what I'm really. And so, the only thing I can say in the podcast is Tyler and I have no plans on shutting that down anytime soon. We have so much fun and such wonderful guests. We just can't wait to make the next one.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and I'm sure that I know Rob and Emily really well. I'm sure that. They were not intentionally having you on. They're definitely not those people. I just know that.
I can't wait to meet him. I'm really looking forward to that. And then I was honored that he even considered me to be a guest. 2 years ago, must be an emergency fill-in, but that's fine. I was even honored at that stage in my social media career to even be considered to be a guest on something like that. Nevertheless, then life goes on, and now I've been guests on other podcasts plus my own. So it's just
the world is weird how it just works that way.
Yeah, I didn't steer it this way. I just went down the path, and this is where I got to, and where it leads to, nobody knows.
That's awesome. Well, let's end it there, man. I have really appreciated this. We went all over the place. I think this will be a great listen and hopefully inspire some people. And I look forward to seeing you at Ag Emotion. Good luck spraying. I hope you get the sun you need and some more rain in your western farm and no more in your eastern farm.
Yes, exactly. And if you see me up at Ag Emotion, say hi. Don't be afraid to come over, say hi. Some guys have said that. I've seen you out and I didn't come say hi.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Ag Warriors podcast, brought to you by Thunderstruck Ag.